What is up, Phoenix family? I'm Ross Cessna, your effervescent and omnipresent host. We're about to go on an esoteric and occult odyssey. This isn't the designer spirituality that is polluting pop culture. It's your opportunity to explore age-old wisdom in the raw. With no further delay, I present to you the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast. What is up, everybody? We have the one and only Stefanie Caponi here with us. Stefanie, how's life treating you?
Hey, Ross. Life is amazing. I can't complain.
I wouldn't.
How are things with you?
Things are good. I have this wonderful kombucha health aid pink lady apple tea going on.
Ooh.
It's phenomenal.
That sounds delicious. I just have coffee and water.
I got to take a nap after this, so no coffee for me, but iced coffee would be great right now. So last week we talked about the tower.
Yes,
There's
we
all
did.
sorts of wonderful stuff that came up in there. Do you want to do a quick rundown, or you think everybody got it?
We can just quick recap. We talked about how the tower was kind of about a card about like spiritual awakening and meeting different layers of yourself. How it's uncomfortable because it denotes a loss and a change and a breakdown, but that's usually what comes before a breakthrough. So not being afraid of the tower, just kind of welcoming discomfort, welcoming uncertainty, and trusting the universe is taking away what you don't need in your life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so after that, we moved to the star card.
Yes. I love the star. I actually, in 2016, I got the Rider-Waite-Smith star card tattooed on my thigh.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and somebody was like, "Why did you pick that?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's one of my favorite cards in the tarot. I don't know why I picked that one over like the moon or like death, which are like my actual favorite cards. I picked the star, and it was funny because a week later is when like my whole life turned upside down. I hadn't planned on it happening. It was totally a tower moment, but I was really happy. I was like, all right, I have the star. So there's my little beacon of hope. That like everything will be okay.
You had like your Fresh Prince moment. Everything got flipped, turned upside down. Sorry.
It did.
Yeah, the star is a great card because it is that like little glimmer of hope kind of amongst a difficult circumstance. Where do you want to start with it? Do you want to start with the astrological component of it, or? Sure.
I think that it's really important to think about the astrological component being Aquarius. Aquarius is a fixed sign, and it's an air sign. It's fixed air. So basically, when you think about Aquarius being the water bearer, so Aquarius is known to be really tapped into like divine messages, and then taking all of that hope and healing, and because it's fixed, it's certain of healing, and kind of pouring that water of life basically onto the planet. Aquarius is known to be associated with moving forward, innovation, not being attached to the past. So in order to heal and have certainty of hope, we have to let go of the past.
So it's a very good card after the tower with all of those aspects as well.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times we have to be very trustworthy that we can't see like the good that's coming, but we just have to be very certain that it is coming. Mm-hmm. That we will heal, we will move on and not resist it.
I really like that. And that's all of the astrological side. That's not even getting into the card yet.
I mean, it's kind of like mixed with it, because a lot of times it's really hard for people when they're in the shit to believe and trust that it's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that even if you can't see your own healing happening, it is happening. You know, just like when you cut your finger, you get like, you know, you break your leg, like it heals. It takes time and rest. But you know with all certainty that your body regenerates.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to also accept that our emotions regenerate and our mind regenerates. And the only thing that is keeping us from healing is replaying the pain.
It goes back into that concept from last week about kind of like choosing to stay stuck. You're only stuck because you're sticking.
Exactly.
So the other aspect of this too is kind of like, and you had touched upon about having faith. It's kind of not being able to see the trail, the quote unquote path ahead of you, but then just following the guiding light that's kind of in the darkness.
Exactly. When you think about the star, you can think about how it's kind of related to like the North Star, like a fixed point. You know, with Aquarius being a fixed sign. So you have this, everybody has their own North Star. You know, whether you look at that as astrologically, where you could look at points in your chart, like your midheaven or your North Node, and how that relates to, you know, the different points in your chart to see, like, if you have no idea what your North Star is, but just knowing that there are ways to find it. And a lot of that is like listening to your own internal compass of like what feels good, what feels the best, brings you the most joy.
And that kind of goes into too why you need the tower moment to clean away all that stuff so you can actually follow your heart, kind of to remove what isn't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into the artwork of your card, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So the first thing my eyes are drawn to is the 7 stars. And I'm curious, is that like the Pleiades? Are you familiar with that group of stars? It's a cluster of 7 stars.
Is that, you know, I think, no.
Okay, that's fine.
I just like had a brain fart. I want to say that there are 7 stars traditionally on the card.
There's
7 or 8.
There's 8 traditionally, yeah.
So there were 7 stars in the window, and then the one around her head was the 8th.
Aha, touche.
That was where that was.
Okay. So the 8th one is just kind of that star of illumination, kind of getting that cosmic consciousness or something like that, connecting to the divine.
Yes. Because the 8th star is supposed to be the North Star, but if you are your own North Star, it's like kind of connecting into that.
And that's why the infinity symbol is on the forehead as well.
Yes.
Okay. And the nakedness is just kind of being naked and following your own path, kind of having anything that isn't necessary stripped away.
You got it.
One of the things I want to comment.
The water bearer, she's the coffee bearer.
That's actually better than the water bearer in most situations, especially late at night.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to comment on your card about as well too is it kind of still has that stable foundation that we have even left over after the tower, and it's kind of that whole structure to rebuild upon. I like that aspect.
Thank you.
What else do you want to add about your card?
I think that, you know, just you touched on the stars being like the, you know, finding that North Star of like healing. And kind of like for me, part of my like personal healing journey was journaling and writing and getting things out of my head, because I lived in my head too much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's like the notebook and the pen, and I think like when I think of like the main like word association that comes from the star, I would say obviously healing and hope, but renewal, regeneration, reprieve, and release.
I like that, especially the release part, kind of just
Mm-hmm.
letting things go and moving forward.
Exactly. So in the star card, if those are the general themes, like during a reading, I ask people like, what do you do to get out of your own head? What is a release that you offer yourself? Some people get a profound release from exercising. Some people get it from journaling. Some people get it from acting. Like it's almost like some type of creative transmutation of energy.
Let me say this is, or let me ask this rather than say it. So this release too, by now they should have kind of cleared away a lot of the unhealthy releases and transition to more cathartic, positive releases.
Right. But like in this card, you have a little bit more control over that. And the release goes with like releasing yourself from the past. Like a lot of times we have to, especially when we're doing like soul level work, we have to really forgive ourselves. I think that if you've made it this far in the journey, you no longer blame other people for your problems and your chaos. But the shadow side to that is like a lot of people feel a lot of guilt about their past. And so in the star, it's about learning how to forgive yourself, I think, in order to heal. Like for me, I've always been really quick to forgive situations and people and cut cords and understand like everybody, we're all just bumping into one another. Nobody's, even if somebody hurt me, like maybe that wasn't their intention. That's just how things happened, and it happened for a reason. But forgiving myself was the hard part.
I can relate to that as well. It's interesting though, because forgiveness of other people on a deeper level, on a more permanent level too, starts with self-forgiveness. And there's kind of this, again, reciprocity within that as well.
Which is another like thing of the infinity symbol. It's like self and other, we're all the same. So if you can't forgive yourself, how can you forgive other people? If you can't forgive other people, how can you forgive yourself?
I like that. Got to just do it both at the same time.
Yes. So remembering to, put that energy inward and outward.
That's the best way to describe it. Yeah. So looking at the Ryder Smith weight one. So the phoenix in that corner, I've read it's a phoenix. What's your kind of take on the bird in the back corner of the star card?
That's a phoenix?
That's what I've read.
I like that. That makes sense. I never gave the bird that much thought. I was really more concerned with the stars and the person.
Looking at all the pretty flashy stuff.
This is why we have you around. You tell us about the colors and all the symbolism that I missed. Couldn't do this without you.
So the phoenix, yeah, that definitely is rebirth. And then if I'm not mistaken, too, that's supposed to be a pomegranate tree. Because pomegranates kind of throughout everything.
Yes.
And that's like, again, that fertility, or I want to say it's associated with rebirth as well. So there's like, there's two key symbols of rebirth, which I think is great after the tower.
Yes.
And you had kind of mentioned that the pictures are associated with Aquarius, if I'm not mistaken. So one is them kind of healing the earth, and them pouring the water into the water. Is that like healing the emotions or the subconscious? A little bit of both. Like, how do you take that?
Exactly like you just said it.
Okay. And I guess the green obviously is earth, but also heart chakra, like rejuvenating your heart after the difficulty of the tower experience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the next question I want to ask you is in regards to the numerology. So it's 1 and 7. So magician and chariot, but then also strength. How does that tie into this, do you think?
I think that was another reason why I put the infinity symbol in there, because both it's in strength and it's in the magician.
Hmm.
Um, what was the other one that you said?
Chariot.
Yeah. So chariot is forward momentum. Magician is, that divine channel, which, makes me, both of those make me think of Aquarius, because Aquarius always moves forward, never looks to the past, even though you would think the water would be like reflecting, but it's more like releasing and letting it go.
It's like that Heraclitus thing. No man can ever step in the same river twice, where the water's flowing forward.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So go
And
ahead.
strength to do all of those things. It takes a lot. I think moving on and choosing differently is one of the most difficult things for us.
I like that. And do you think that the stars are associated with the 8 of strength? Since there's 8 stars and eight's a number of strength.
It certainly could be. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm curious. I feel like we broke down all the symbolism on both cards now.
Yes.
One of the questions that I want to ask you, it's going to be relating to the moon, since we're going there after this one. Do you think that the star is kind of this moment of hope before this dark night of the soul moment that comes after the tower too?
Yeah. I think that you have to be in the place of, seeing that glimmer of what could be in this healing process, and, having that taste of it to help you go into that dark night of the soul.
Because that's
Because you
something I
have
never
to,
considered before. It like came up
yeah.
during this conversation because I'm just thinking about how this relates to my own personal journey. I'm like, I wonder if this was kind of like, so everything I went through the past couple months, I wonder if that was kind of my moon prior to the sun, I guess. Predicated. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting to consider that.
I feel like in my own personal journey, I saw glimmers of, and like small flashes that of what my life could be if I was living in alignment. And that was fucking enough to get me to go into the deep dark places.
Hmm. I definitely agree there. I mean, there's only so much real deep cleaning you can do on yourself before it's forward work and kind of clearing away new debris that you acquire.
Yep.
um,
So I guess like I'm sorry, did you have another question?
no, go ahead.
I just what I think is interesting, you and I, we look at tarot really through the lens of a spiritual awakening, and like having a spiritual journey and a spiritual practice. And I think that I don't want to leave out like the mundane things. I thought it was really interesting when I picked up, just to like, go back through some of my favorite reading material. Rachel Pollack's Tarot Wisdom is one of my favorite texts about tarot. And she says that the star can mean someone who feels good in their body. The star can be a symbol of sexual pleasure or sensuality, which I think is really interesting. So sometimes, depending on the type of tarot spread you do for somebody, because there's always like implied nudity in the star card, and that hope and renewal. It could really be on a physical level, feeling good about your body.
It's a really neat perspective. I never had really thought of it that way.
I think that like we're so into our spiritual journey that sometimes we miss like just the like plain mundane obvious things. So I think it's really interesting like to consider when the star card comes out about feeling and healing body image issues, feeling comfortable and safe in your sexuality. The star is about being seen. If you think about like what it means to be a star, like how comfortable are you being seen? So if, especially with this newfound perspective of your physical body, whether that's like being seen if you're like starting to date again, or being seen in within your community, you know, like the star card started coming up for me a lot, and I felt like I was in a different place on my healing journey, and I was like, you know what, maybe this has something to do with like me being more visible within my community instead of just being like the girl behind the cards that, you know, sells them online and ships them out and doesn't really like post videos or do podcasts. Like that's when I was like, okay, maybe I want to start like being more visible in that way.
Mm-hmm. It's a really
So
neat way to look at it. I definitely know that I kind of neglect the material because I almost like poo-poo on it. But I think that it is equally important. And it's one of the areas that like, that's actually something I have to work on personally, is appreciating the material more and not being such a dick about it. Sorry, material world.
well, it's, you know, you can look at it as having material abundance is what sustains and takes care of you so that you can take care of other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're demonizing the material realm, then we can never coexist with it.
That's certainly a good point. I'm definitely in a better relation with it than I was at some points in my life. Something I have to give more thought to in regards to readings, though, for sure, and emphasize it a little bit more.
Definitely. So I think those were like my just last little like things about the star. You know, you can look at it really as like healing emotional trauma, healing psychological trauma, healing from painful situations, you know, in your spirituality or not. If you're reading for people that aren't necessarily spiritual, it's like look at having them look in their lives about any sort of fear, trauma, sadness, and then like knowing that it's okay to move forward.
I think that's definitely a good reminder. What are your 3 Stefanie Caponi bullet points for the star card? You can say more than 3, but I'm trying to make it difficult for you.
Obviously healing, hope, renewal, release, and letting go of the past to move forward.
Very, very cool. I like it.
Thanks.
So with the moon that we have next week, what's kind of the Stefanie Caponi sneak preview?
The moon is like the deepest, darkest. I love it. It's my favorite card. I can't wait to talk about it. Shadow work. I mean, Moon Void Tarot is a shadow work deck. It's like what I've built everything on. It's the hardest shit I've ever had to go through, and also the most rewarding. So I think the work we do in the moon is so important.
Wonderful. I'm excited. So I guess the final thing I'll say is if you want to contact Stefanie and myself for questions, comments, or just to say hello, you can reach us on Instagram. That information will be in the show notes. You can also shoot me an email or Stefanie an email. And you can buy her deck at moonvoidtarot.com or etsy.com/shop/moonvoidtarot. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoy it. And it was great talking with you, Stefanie.
You too, Ross. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Spiritual Phoenix podcast. If you've got a question you want answered, a topic you'd like discussed, or a guest you want to hear, check out the forum in the show notes. Follow our social media for other great content.